Welcome to the THRIVERY podcast, the show that explores elevated living. I'm your host, Jacy Smith, and in this community, we engage in conversations to inspire you to flourish in all aspects of your life, because you weren't created to merely survive. You were designed to thrive. Hello, friends. Thank you for joining the THRIVERY podcast. This is episode 2, and you are in for a treat. You don't even know what's headed your way. I am really excited about this episode because I am sharing someone with you that is one of the dearest people in my life, truly. And I was so excited that she said yes and agreed to be on this episode. And I just can't wait to jump into this conversation with her. She's like a sister to me. She's one of my dearest friends. Like I said, she was in my wedding. I love her. I adore her. You're going to love her. You're going to adore her as well. And so let me just read you a little bit about this special woman in my life. She has lived life with the Lord since he met her in the depths of depression 30 years ago. The Holy Spirit reminded 5th grade Pauline, there's the giveaway, the words of love that had been spoken to her by a beautiful white-haired woman years prior, as well as the song, Jesus Loves Me. Feeling tolerable at best, Pauline was blown away that a perfect Jesus could love her. That night, Pauline asked Jesus to be her best friend forever. And 30 years later, Pauline can attest that he has been her best friend and so much more. So Pauline, let me tell you a little bit more about this dear one of mine. Pauline serves as worship pastor at Open Door Church in Burleson, Texas. She is currently pioneering a unique women's ministry called RAIN, where women's creativity is given the opportunity to become their ministry. And RAIN is designed to work in conjunction with Train to RAIN, an after-school creative arts program for local students led by Kingdom creatives who recognize the influence of the arts in our world. So welcome to the show, Pauline Jordan. Hi, my friend. How are you?
Hello, friend. I'm so good.
Oh, I just love you. Every time I see your face, oh my goodness, it's like home. And when I hear your voice, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through this episode without crying, because just hearing your voice, I somehow break out into tears, really happy tears, but your voice is so special to me. So we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. And we're all along for the adventure, which I am so honored to be a part of.
Oh, thanks, friend. I just have to start with what's behind you, because that's a pretty powerful word I mean, it's making a statement. So talk to me. I know I just described this women's ministry that you spearhead and you run there at Open Door Church, but tell me a little bit about how you came up with this name, this idea, anything that you want to share with me, because I really love the name.
Oh my gosh. It is such a cool story, JC. But honestly, Rain is all about finding incredible women like you who need a place to serve, and will use that word thrive. And they just need someone to come and believe in them and see them and awaken them into their design, their divine design. And so Rain really is geared towards creatives. I think that there's such a missing piece in our in certain cultures where creativity is not necessarily celebrated, but it's clearly such a huge influence in our culture. And so we have these incredible gifts and talents that need to be mined as treasure and brought up to the surface. So Rain really is, I mean, it's a gathering, I will tell you that really caters towards that discovery in every single way. And it encompasses the 5 senses of smell, touch, sight, sound, and feel. I mean, or I guess I got that one, didn't I? Smell. It's got the 5 senses, and it involves our spiritual, mental, physical, health, and it's a holistic way of ministering to women and bringing them out. And I know that this is not necessarily a Christian podcast, but I am certainly a believer, and Jesus has legit changed my life.
Mm.
And so he is a part of everything that I do. And rain is a huge thing that he gave me. And I mean, we can go into the name another time. Honestly, JC, we could spend a whole podcast on the name. Honestly, it's so cool.
I believe it and I love it. Anytime that you and I start talking, it's at least 2 hours. So we're going to need to do this a few times. And I'm good with that. I would love for you to come back
Yeah.
on the show and we can talk about whatever you want. But I just want to share a bit more personally to the listeners because you are very special. They need to know who you are and who you are to me, what you mean to me. Um, I, I seriously, we're going to try not to cry here, but Pauline, I was at an event and I saw her. You were one of the vocalists singing that night, and I saw you up on the stage. And I was in a place in my life that I really it was a low place, we'll just say that. And I saw you up on this stage, and I was so mesmerized by what I saw in you. You had accessed this level of what looked like to me freedom and joy, and I did not know how one could do that. I couldn't take my eyes off of you. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I just thought if I could only access what I'm seeing right now, does she experience this joy and this freedom? And I was blown away by it. And so what I didn't realize is at the same time, I'm going to let you share this part. We'll just kind of go back and forth, but I didn't realize at the same time, Pauline, that you actually noticed me.
Oh my gosh. It was a light on you that seemed like, I mean, I've got a circle light around me right now. And that's what it seemed like. You were electric in that room. And I prayed up on the stage, let me have the opportunity to speak with that glorious woman that I'm looking at right now. I could not take my eyes off you, honestly. And I would try, and then it was like a magnet that would pull me back this way. So there was just a friendship in the making from that moment.
Agreed. I had no idea that you were seeing that in me because honestly, whatever you saw in me, you could see in me something that I couldn't see in myself at the time. Like couldn't even begin to see. And we had that opportunity at the end of this event. Some really amazing things happened. We're not going to go into all the details, but at the end of this event, we did have an opportunity to connect. And I just want to say this small, simple act is way bigger than it seems. It was profound in my life. Pauline said to me, I just feel like you need a safe place to tell your story. Like I'm feeling like tears right now. Like just thinking about that. Like, how did you even know to ask that question? You didn't know anything about me. You had no idea that nobody had ever asked me that or that I needed that desperately. And just you being so sensitive to what you were hearing and sensing and feeling, and that you were bold enough to ask. It was a simple ask. It wasn't so simple, but you know what I mean. I don't know how simple it was for you to ask, but it seems like just a little thing. And I remember when you asked me that question, I was overcome with emotion. Like I just couldn't believe that someone would see me, care enough about me that they would actually invest time to do that. That was the one thought that I had. And then the other thought that I had is she has no idea what she's asking. Like she has no idea. Does she even know? And then just to be quite frank with you, the last thing I thought is, yeah, that's real cute and sweet. But once she really starts get to know me and she sees how much there is here, it's probably gonna fall off. It's probably not going to last. It'll be short lived, and that'll be really sweet of her. But I don't think anyone can go the distance and do what needs to be done. I mean, I didn't even really know what that meant, but I knew it was a lot. And I just want to say that this woman invited me into not only an opportunity to be seen and to share my story in a safe place, which she definitely provided, but she was cultivating so much in that space. There was so much that happened, and here's how she did it. This is so creative. We think we have to overcomplicate things too, like our healing journeys. And it was just because you decided to be open to hold a safe space for someone and also facilitate it. You were leading this. Like, I didn't ask you. You volunteered this. Who does this? And so you said, hey, because we lived about 4 hours away from each other at the time. And you said, let's jump on a stationary bike and let's put some AirPods in and we'll just work out and we'll do this on the bike. And I was like, I had never considered that, never heard of that. And at the same time, I was excited about it. I mean, I was really like nervous, but excited about it because I could just sense and feel that something was about to change, and it definitely did. And not only did you begin that with me, you stuck with me we did this for 1 year. Now, that doesn't mean that you didn't continue to love me and support me and pour into me, and we didn't have a friendship and relationship that we still have after all these years. But that really, really close, rolling up your sleeves, getting in the trenches with someone. Ooh, I can feel myself. um, on a bike, tears, it was ugly crying, it was sometimes laughing, it was all of it. And you just held me so beautifully in that space. And how you knew how to do that, I don't know how, but I am so grateful for the gift because you didn't only begin it, like I said, but you did it for a year, and we did it. I looked back on the calendar actually, because I wanted to see how this happened. And in the very beginning, you were already doing it with a few ladies. And you were like, hey, you can just jump in and be a part of it. And I think you were doing it every morning. And so I saw on my calendar how it began where I would be with you and others for a few weeks, I think, pretty much every morning. And then I could see where it switched to our Tuesdays and our Thursdays in the morning. And it was you and me, one on one. Not only did you give me your time, friend, sister, you gave me one on one, undivided attention for 1 hour, twice a week for 1 year. Just think about that for a second. I am quite aware that that is abnormal. I'm well aware that most of us don't have that gift as we're going through our healing journey. And I feel enormously grateful and blessed that you gave me that. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to create the space the community that I've created, is that nobody has to feel alone. Nobody has to do this on their own. There are always resources. There are always people to support you. You don't have to isolate. That's what I was doing. And so I feel like what a gift, because when you decided to give me this safe space, you were right there. And it was like this intersection of when we met of just my completely just hopelessness and your yes to being there for someone that you didn't even know. You had no idea what you were getting yourself into. You just did it, and it changed my life radically. Like, not a little bit, radically what you did with me. And it changed my legacy now, like my boys. And anyway, so it's a love fest here. I could spend this whole podcast talking about how much I love you and what you've done for me, but I really want to honor you in this space. That's why I keep talking. I haven't even given you a chance to respond. I promise I will. But I remember when I asked you if you would be a guest on the podcast, and you were so gracious and you said yes. And then I said, friend, I have a bigger ask. And you're like, okay, what? And I said, I can't imagine having anyone else be my first guest. I just would love for you to be the first guest, because I feel like it has to start. If we're talking about thriving in life and we're in this space and we're exploring all the things, I think I have to kind of start with me. And that's you. You're such a huge part. So anything I have, you get a claim in that. And I always tell you that. And I will always honor you, always honor you, always honor you, because of who you are and what you mean to me. I'm going to stop for now, but I'm not going to promise that I'm not going to keep going. But thank you. In October 2023, amidst the breathtaking Montana mountains, a THRIVERY experience emerged, giving life to its inaugural retreat, Ascend. Surpassing all expectations, this transformative event brought together over a dozen women in an immersive experience that left them empowered to uncover the visions and dreams that echoed in their hearts. Ascend transcended the typical retreat experience. It evolved into a shared odyssey of self-discovery, where every woman discovered a supportive sisterhood dedicated to the pursuit of an elevated life. The memories forged during Ascend will be cherished as an endearing chapter in THRIVERY, and we're doing it again this year. I'm thrilled to announce the upcoming THRIVERY experience for 2024, Innermost. It will unfold at the award-winning property Canyon Ranch, nestled in the tranquil Sonoran Desert of Tucson, Arizona, on September 20th through the 22nd. For more information and to save your spot, visit thrivery.store. Thank you.
Jacy, and what I see you doing with so many women is exactly that. And there is no greater honor that you could give to me than to do exactly what you're doing right now. And I just look at you, and one, I think I've always seen that. I've always seen you as this person, and you speak of yourself being so different and transformed. I'm telling you, I saw the same goal that I'm looking at today And everybody who gets the opportunity to get to know you and be in your world or just be under the sound of your voice is so privileged. And it is such a joy to know you. You are the salt of the earth, genuinely the salt of the earth. And you have changed my life just as much as I have changed yours. So it is such a privilege to join you today, and whatever the future holds, I'm here for it. You know I am.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you so much. And I want the listeners to know this woman is the real deal. Like, you are so genuine. You are so authentic. You are so, like, what you see is what you get. You can trust. You have such integrity. If you say something, you mean it. And some of the things that you say, I'm floored by still. I mean, you always, I just can't wait to get this conversation going, because I can't wait for the listeners to hear the gift that you are. And so I guess let's get started and I have so much I want to ask you. I have so much I want to talk to you about. So we'll do more. We'll just do more episodes. But what I'd like to start with is, I just want to ask you, what does thriving mean to you?
Oh, it's such a good question. And I got to listen to your podcast last week, Jacy, and it was so good. And the definition that you gave of thrive was so good. And I was thinking about it this morning, actually, and got these 3 P's. And it was possession, position, or purpose. And it was kind of like, if you had your choice, which of those 3 would you choose? And hands down, it's purpose for me as far as thriving. And I do feel like we can get tangled up in the weeds of possessions or position or title as being what it is to thrive. But I really feel like when we find our purpose, that the rest of those things can come along with, but it also sets us free from the pressure to have a title of a certain thing. Because if you're in your purpose, it's that satisfying thing of like finding that last piece of the puzzle and placing it in there. And it's like, oh, that is it. And the best part about purpose is you are that puzzle piece. You are that missing piece. When you find your purpose and you fit perfectly where you belong, it's like, oh my gosh, the rest of it just falls off of your shoulders. And there's a peace and a rest that comes with that, that I find that for me is thriving. Where me struggling for position or struggling for possession, which I've done both, I have just found both to leave me wanting in every single way. So that is what I think thriving is for me.
Wow. That's amazing. I love the way that you explain that. And it's true. It's like there's not this clawing and this striving and all of this, energy that you feel is just so hard. It's like an uphill thing. It feels like when I hear you talking about it, it is with ease and flow, and it's just so beautiful. I love to hear what people think thriving means to them. And so thank you for sharing that. And I definitely know that you are a thriver for sure. You couldn't have helped me thrive if you weren't thriving. And so I know that to be true about you, and I love it. I love how you describe it. So thank you for sharing that. And I want to kind of shift into this message that I recently saw of you speaking at Open Door Church, and it was amazing. First of all, I love mountains, so you got me there. You were talking about mountains, and last year, a Thrivery experience, the retreat was called Ascend, and it was this whole scripture about ascending the mountain, and I got so excited just about the topic. I couldn't wait to hear what you had to say, because I knew it was going to be gold, and it was. And so I would love to talk about that, because I think that it would be amazing to share with the listeners. I gleaned so much from listening to that sermon, and I know that the listeners will love it too. And so I just have some questions. I want to know, how did you land on that topic to talk about mountains in our lives? You know, if we're talking about this thing in front of us, we'll call it a mountain
Yeah.
that we see ahead
Yeah.
of us. How did you land on that topic? Just give me a little bit of backstory of how that came to be for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I have never had an affection for mountains. So I love yours and I'm joining you in it now. But it really started just after Christmas. I was sitting at my coffee table and it was like this question was right there in my mind. And I truly don't know how it got there. But the question was, what's the difference between a valley and a mountain? And I was like, oh my gosh, that is such a great question. I'm going to need to search that out. And so for me, a lot of times where I start is with the Bible. And so I was searching it out like, what is the difference? A lot of us know Psalm 23, where yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So, okay, there's valley, there's the challenge of the valley. But in my mind, Jacy, I just really didn't have something pinpointed as to that mountain scripture. So I went to search it out, and that was really where I came to this journey of what is it to climb a mountain? What does it mean, and what is there to look forward to when you reach that mountaintop that we hear a lot of songs about, or it's the
Yeah.
climb that um, what is it really to look forward to? What is the point of climbing the mountain? Why don't we just stop in the middle? Or why do we bother? Why don't we just let it stand where it is and make a tent and stay there?
That's
So
amazing.
that's what first started this journey. And that is where that message was really born from, is that question.
Yeah, I love it. I love that it was like it sounds like you weren't even considering that topic. It was just you sitting there and it came to you. And you also talk when we speak about this mountain. I love how you say this. You talked about these three different uh relationships, I guess, with a mountain. That a mountain can either be moved, it can be melted, or it can be climbed. I would
Mm.
love to hear you talk a little bit more about that. I know that the listeners will love hearing what you had to say about it. I thought it was amazing.
Mm. Well, that's incredible. And I love how you said that relationship with the mountain, because it does really become that, where there's this ongoing dance with that mountain. And, you know, I just want to say, because I really felt like I was climbing one. So as I was approaching these, the first two scared me a little bit, because in scripture, it talks about how you can tell a mountain to move and it will move if you have faith as a mustard seed, which is not very much, that mountain is going to move. And you can say for that mountain to be cast into the sea, and it will. And that's one relationship we can have with a mountain, is just get out the way and there it goes and we move on. And there's also these places in scripture that talk about how the mountain melts in the presence of the Lord. And this is something that I love. I love the presence of God. I'm a worshiper, and I love singing to him. I love praying to him, and that entertains his presence. And so when that happens, we can just find that our mountains have melted. And the word talks about mountains melting. So that's the second thing. And those were really the two things that I found very clearly as metaphors in scripture. A lot of us know those Psalms, whether, they're kind of built into the poetry of our culture. So in the Psalms, though, I really didn't find anything about climbing a mountain. And I got a little nervous, Jacy, because my mountain did not move and my mountain did not melt. And I absolutely felt I was climbing a mountain. And quite honestly, it was painful. And I thought, my gosh, am I not even supposed to be climbing this? Was I just supposed to wait at the base of this mountain until it moved or until it melted? And man, those are the three relationships, but I'm happy to report there are times that we all are going to need to climb a mountain. And so some of you may find yourself in the middle of a mountain right now. What that looks like for me is when you cannot see what's ahead, contrasting with a valley where you can just see forever and it seems like this is too long. Like this just seems like it's never ever going to end. The mountain would be all I can see in front of my face is a cliff. That's all I see. I don't see anything but the next step. And I look up and I don't see anything but clouds and more mountain. I can't see the top. I don't know when the end of this is. It feels very steep. And some days you might just feel like, yeah, I'm just on a straight plane. But then there's other days where it feels like, ooh, this is taking all of me. This is taking every part of me, heart, mind, body, just to make the next move. To me, that's what a mountain feels like. And so those were some indications like, girl, you ain't on a flat terrain. You are not in a valley, but you are climbing a mountain, and it is a challenge. So those are ways I knew I was climbing a mountain, and maybe that resonates with some of y'all that are listening.
I know that it resonates. I mean, you even talk about this, that we all are going to face a mountain. If you haven't already in life, you are. And you go into a little bit more detail about that. But I think about, well, first of all, I love the scripture and I love how you just said the poetry. How did you say it? The poetry of our
I have no
culture or
idea.
something. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
brilliant. I was like, I got to remember that. Um, but when I was a little girl, my great grandmother, when she passed away, I don't know if I've told you this, but anyway, I got this little necklace and it was a tiny little clear globe. And inside of it, it had a little mustard seed. And it was the first verse I ever learned. I mean, I just would say it everywhere I went and I was so proud of it. And so, anyway, that's just a side note, but I love that scripture. And I love how you describe the melting. um, I never considered that, with scripture even. I just love that mountains can melt. And then sometimes we have to climb them. And I recently, well, it's not so recent, but a few years ago, I went to Utah to Zion National Park and I climbed a mountain, a literal mountain with a friend of mine.
That's awesome.
And it was Angel's Landing. And it's one of the most dangerous climbs in America, they say. It's very steep. So, as you were saying that, I mean, I can feel it. I love to hike. And so, but I'm also completely terrified of heights. So, go figure. But I just remember being on this hike and climbing this mountain and exactly what you're saying. I'm just looking up and it's so steep. I can't see anything. I don't want to look down either because that would be terrifying. And all I could see was a step in front of me. And I remember my dear friend telling me, Jacy, it's just one step at a time, just one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. And that really helped me on my climb because I didn't have to have it all figured out right then and there. I didn't have to know. But if I could just take one step at a time, you know, that would help me to continue to go on. But you also talk about the steps actually in your message and how they are important. Um, can you share a little bit about why it is important that, the steps that we take are important as we climb a mountain?
Oh my. Well, I like to say this, that character is built on the climb. And there's this really cool message that's trending right now. It's called the Seven Mountains of Influence. Some of you may have heard about it.
Yep.
But it talks about these really seven high points that really determine the course of our culture. As America or wherever, these kind of 7 mountains are dictating those things. And if you want to have influence in that area, you need to have a high space on one of those mountains. And in order to do that, we're going to have to climb it, right? You can't be at a high place on a mountain. I guess you could take a helicopter up there, but you didn't earn it like the person who climbed the mountain. And so when we think of influence, you know, sometimes we think about a famous person or a person that's super talented, or at least I do. Some of you may also, but you know, what I have found is that talents and gifts are free, but character is sold separately. And character is expensive. But if you want to have character at the top, like you spoke of integrity at the beginning and how much you honor that and cherish that, Jacy. I don't know a person who doesn't when they're experiencing it. When they're experiencing someone who is going to tell them the truth, and when they're going to stay to their word. If they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. I don't know who in reality doesn't cherish that in a friendship, in a person. But that is built, things like that are built along the climb that gets us to the top. And it also gives us the integrity to stay at the top once we get there, to maintain that mountaintop space and have the humility to stay there, not be pushed off the mountain like an old mountain goat. You know what I'm saying? So every every step along the way is so incredibly important. And as much as the cost that it is to take every step, it is worth it to get to the top of that mountain.
That was one of my favorite things, actually, that you said when you started talking about character, how we are all born with gifts. And you said that those are free, but character is expensive. I had to listen to that a couple of times. It was like an aha moment. It was so good. I love that part. And it's so true. And as you mentioned, getting to the top of a mountain, you don't have to go. You had this list that you gave and of these beautiful things that are waiting on us. And truly, you've had to climb a mountain to figure that one out. So you don't have to share them all, but if you would like to share a couple, just to encourage us, if any one of us is currently looking at a mountain, right? There might be some people out there that are like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know if I'll ever be able to climb this mountain, but that's the only way forward. And if they're discouraged, what can you share with them that is waiting on them at the very top?
Well, I know that for a lot of people probably listening to you, Jacy, there is probably a lot of a dream to write a book or possibly have their own podcast or write music, some beautiful expressions, just like they're seeing in you. And there is something at the top of the mountain for those of you who are on the middle and you're wondering, do I keep going or just turn around? No, keep going, because your divine inspiration is going to be found at the top of that mountain. And you're not going to have to go wondering, I know I'm supposed to write a book, but what's that book going to be about? What's this? If I could write a song, what's it going to be about? No, it's going to begin to drop and download into you, and you're going to be able to express it like water flowing in a river. And so that's one of my favorites. You're going to experience vision. You know, right now your vision is blocked if you're on a mountain, but when you get to the top, you're going to have a vantage point, a divine advantage to be able to see for days. And you're going to be seeing so much more clearly than what you ever imagined you'd be able to see. And not just for you, but for your children, your children's children. You're going to see things in a way you never have seen before. You're going to experience rest. I think that is such an underrated experience that we desperately need as people. We need time to rest. And I don't mean even just 8 hours of sleep. That would be great. But I mean an inner rest with who you are, with knowing, man, I just did that. And having this inner peace of, I think I I think I could overcome a lot more than I ever knew that I could now that I'm at the top of this mountain. And there is a peace that's made with who you are and who you're not along that climb. And, one thing that I think I would do as I get further and further up of climbing a mountain, which I clearly need to go with you, JC,
Yes, please.
but the further and further, yes, that's happening. But the further and further, it's like, okay, I packed all this stuff, but now I know I don't need that. And I would just be shedding layers as a beginner, especially. Like, I would just be shedding layers. Like, I thought I needed this. I don't. I thought that this was going to be essential, but it's actually very cumbersome. And we lay these things down. And at the top, I believe some of that rest that we find is like, oh, now I know what I really need. And there's going to be victory, just flat out victory at the top, my friends. When we get to that mountaintop, there's going to be a mark of, I mean, it's just an inner victory, but it's also a victory that is going to change legacy. That's going to change not just you, but the people around you, the people that you're going to be birthing, the people that you're going to be marrying. It's going to change so much. So, anyway, those are a few. It's worth getting to the top. We don't want to miss it. We don't want to miss our mountaintop moment.
We don't. That's so good, friend. I remember, speaking of Angel's Landing, there was this last little part where it gets really, really steep and really, really narrow. And some people are like, I'm going to pass on that and I'm just going to go down. I've done enough. I'm good. I'm proud of myself here. And that's what I wanted to do. And had a friend that was much like you. Whenever I was healing and like, I'm just going to go back over here where this feels more comfortable. I'm actually good here because I know what this is like. I don't know. This is so scary. And you're like, nope. I remember you're like, nope, not going back. That's not who you are. Gosh, all the Paulinisms that I could share with you right now. But I remember getting to this point that I could turn back around, but I had just spent hours climbing. I mean, like, I don't know how long, but a lot of time had gone by and I had made a lot of progress. And I get to this place where it would have been really easy to turn around and just be like, I'm good. That's awesome. Great. I did it. But she's like, nope, you are not stopping now. You're going to finish this. And so I did. And when I got to the top, as you're talking about getting to the top and the rewards up there, it is exactly as you describe it. You realize so much about yourself. You learn so much about yourself in those moments. I learned, climbing a physical mountain that I actually could overcome some of my fears. And then I'm at the top of this mountain and I had this vantage point, as you talk about, this perspective that I didn't have before. I'm looking out over miles and miles and miles over this beautiful scenery, surroundings. And I would have never been able to have that vantage point had I not climbed to the very top. So, speaking about a physical mountain, we can parallel that with the other mountains that we're facing in our lives, no matter what they are. And I feel the same way if I talk about, for example, my healing journey and with you and feeling like I probably can't do this. We've come far and I'm really grateful. And you're like, no, we're going to keep going. You've got this in you. You've got this. I mean, you really were such a cheerleader too. You believed in me. You saw me. But anyway, getting to that place of feeling like, oh my goodness, all of a sudden you're there. And I remember that in our journey for that year, it was like we didn't talk about it's going to be 1 year. And you never said, hey, we're going to do this for 1 year, twice a week. You did commit to twice a week, but we didn't have this end date. because I think that was very wise on your part. You didn't know what that would look like, but it was just this moment where we both knew. And I had a conversation with you. I don't know if you remember this, but it was like, oh, the training wheels, I can actually, I all of a sudden realized that I was swimming on my own. Like I
Wow.
didn't have the floaties on anymore. And I don't mean that in a derogatory, negative way, but like you had
No.
trained, you had walked with me so long and so far that I didn't even realize that I was doing it on my own. And you're like, but look, friend, sister, you're doing it on your own. Like you've been doing this. I've just been here with you for the last however long. Anyway, so getting to that place, it feels, yes, like such an accomplishment. You learn that you are made of the things that you didn't know that you were made of, that you discover things about yourself that you can be proud of, that you can look back and say, I had grit, I had determination, I had perseverance that I didn't know that I possessed. And so many more gifts are at the top. So thank you, friend. Another thank you that you did that with me. But I I just think it's a beautiful illustration when you parallel the two of just how similar that feeling is. I had a different perspective, a different vantage point now in which to see life that I didn't like. Speaking of thriving, like I couldn't have seen that where I was living. But when I got up at that on the top
Totally.
of the mountain, all of a sudden it was in my view. It wasn't before. So thank you. Thank you
That's
again.
beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love it. And I see you on it. I'm just so excited about you. So excited about you. My goodness.
Thank you, friend. So much of what I have is because you saw something in me that I couldn't see
It's
for
amazing.
myself. All right, so there's this mindset thing that I talk about a lot, and you actually talked about mindset too, and I think we have to talk about that because, and we kind of have a little bit already. You have to, decide. But I would love to hear what you would have to say about how important the mindset is,
Mm.
and maybe an exchange that happens, that has to happen in this process of climbing this mountain.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm in the process in a big way. I am watching my mind. And you said it in your episode one is that you got to think about what you're thinking about. And so I've just found that there is a way of thinking that will get you to the top of the mountain. And there are a bunch of ways of thinking that are going to get you to a dead end. And it's deceptive because a lot of ways we think will give us fuel. They will give us an oomph to get up and get moving. Some of my fuels, Jacy, used to be fear. It used to be competition. It used to be comparison. Um, you know, I experienced what it was like to have people be jealous of you from a young age, and I knew how painful it was. It's not something that anyone asks for, and it is painful. And so I cut jealousy's head off, but that's just one thing that I just know that has no permission in my life. But I know that it's something that many of us struggle with just because we're human. But we get up in the morning and we can have these things that can ignite us and get us moving that actually are super deceptive because they lead us to dead ends. And so what we need to do, and this is what I kind of liken it to when we have something on our television or we're watching a movie that's really, it's really not great. But there's nothing that we're seeing that's any better on. And so, or equally as good. At least give me a program that I like equally as well, and I might change it. But in our mind, we have to come up with these exchanges of something that's equally as good, if not better, to give us the oomph to change our mind. And so you know what, I had to do some brainstorming actually, JC, the other day, because I needed some of those exchanges as presets.
Yeah.
Like, okay, when this comes up, you're going to do this instead.
Right.
Because this is going to help you get up that mat. So some of them are when I feel comparison, then I am actively going to be exchanging that for casting a vision for someone around me. And that might be through actively looking for a song for them to sing on Sunday. For me, it may be like, look at this YouTube video, thought of you, and I could see you doing that, or something where it's like, my goodness, I am going to put fuel into that person, and that actually is going to fuel me more than comparing myself to someone in my life that I wish I could be more like. I'm never going to be more like that person.
Yeah.
So let me just pour into somebody else on what I can see in them. Competition. Instead of competition with somebody that's next to me, I am going to intentionally set and work towards accomplishing a goal. So that can be really fast. I can say, when I feel that competition coming on, I can be like, I'm going to work out tonight, and I am not letting anything stop me. And I'm checking that off my list today, which is still a competition of sorts. It's just a competition with my own self.
Right.
And it satisfies. It's like a sweet tooth that's satisfied when I do that. But this is something that I have all the control over, which is really, really cool. I can compete with myself and win, where with that other person, I may never. So gossip is another thing. I mean, we can be so fueled and energized by gossip, friend, but or it can really benefit us just to plant a seed of something negative and let other people talk about it. Maybe we're not even technically a part of it, right? But instead, when that temptation comes on, then my preset is encouragement. I am going to plant a seed of, that girl did an amazing thing yesterday, or whatever it is. I'm going to plant a seed of, let's get this swirl of positivity going in my atmosphere. Hypothetical conversations. This one is so big, right?
Yeah. Yep.
This one is such a waste of time.
Truth. Yep.
Oh, hypothetical conversations. I think I've had more of these than real conversations in my life. And
wow.
And of course, I come out as the star in all of them, and I have the best comeback lines, and they say exactly what I need them to say to have the perfect comeback line. No conversation that's hypothetical that I've ever had has actually happened in my life, and they are just a complete waste of energy and time. So when I notice I'm having these hypotheticals with the same person, I realize this is time to exchange that for an honest conversation. So yeah, I know
yes,
that is a mind-blowing one, but that is the exchange. Is okay, I need to get my heart right. I need to you know what? I'm going to use this word, unleavening, because sometimes when we have those hypothetical conversations, we're puffing up, we're just getting like 5 layers out from who we really are.
Right.
And it's time to deflate that balloon that we've blown up of ourselves so much, and just come right in here and get small, get our size again, and be like, I just need to have an honest conversation with this person that I actually really love, really care about. And we need to make time to do that. And so that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Revenge. When I feel revenge, instead, I'm going to feel inspiration. And so revenge, I notice, is a lot about past, present. A lot of these exchanges is really going from dwelling. And you said this, girl, you said this just last week, but going from that past to present to going present, future. And man, if that isn't it right there,
So good.
because we often think about these things that, man, what if that would have gone later? You know, maybe it's resentment or regret. What if this would have gone differently? I can't believe that she said that, blah, blah, blah. What if it changed to, what if this happened? What if she says this? And what if I say this? And just so much future possibility. And as we do this and go future forward, we're going to find ourselves on the top of the mountain as we make these healthy exchanges where a lot of our subliminal habits actually are leading us into dead ends. And I don't know about you, but I don't have time for a dead end. I have time for no more dead ends in my life. It's just frustration. And I'm just willing to pay the price of what it takes to say I'm going straight up. I'm not taking the curvy road back and forth.
I love you. I don't want to, I don't need a dead end either. I just love how you said that. Who's got
Oh,
time for a dead end? I do not have time for another dead end in my life. No, thank you. We're not doing that.
no, thank you.
I love that. And you know what else I love is that, I think sometimes, me included in the past, before I really recognized or understood that when we remove a negative behavior, a negative way of being, we just think like, okay, I'll just put something out there. Like, I've got to stop smoking, or I've got to stop drinking, or I've got to stop whatever, fill in the blank. Those are just examples. You just think
Yeah.
like, I'm going to will this, I'm going to just grip onto this, make it happen. And then you may stop all of that, but you don't replace it with what's true and good and right and healthy. And I talk about that in my community a lot. It's like, you can't leave this gaping hole open, because what tends to happen is that thing's going to be real familiar with, living in that space. And so I love that there's this beautiful exchange that you talk about, which is so key. You cannot miss that second part. When you remove something, you have to replace it with the truth. And that is, I feel like, has been the key for me, because so many times when I've, like, I will turn from doing something, I will decide to stop doing something, but I won't then replace it with the healthy way of being. And so it makes it
Mhm.
really easy to just wake up one day and you find yourself doing that negative thing again, or, whatever. So I love that you mention that, you say that in your message. And not only that, but you give examples. You give like really valid, fruitful, productive examples for us so that we can think about that for ourselves and implement that into our lives, which is so amazing. I think that I got to listen to the whole thing, and there's so much more that we could dive into, but what you've given us today is just gems, treasures that I know that we will all take with us and really feel into deeper and consider how we would implement that into our own lives. And I just love that message, and I just love you. Just
Mm.
love you.
I love you so much.
Love you.
I love you so, so much. And by the way, these are just mine. These are ones that I would get excited about, and it definitely doesn't limit, but I mean, I would just throw out that activation of being excited. What would you get excited about that would be a pure exchange that would satisfy that same space that this negative thing is currently filling? So, the sky is the limit. I think we really can get into some boxes of thinking it's this or this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, it's this or like a million of things that you can do. And we just have so much untapped freedom and so much untapped creativity, Jacy, in really chiseling out that life that we want for ourselves. And I think oftentimes those boxes are the ones that the culture puts on us
Right.
of what it's supposed to look like. And I've really had to grapple I know you're trying to close up, but I just really,
Girl,
and
you
I
go.
am
Don't
sorry.
you? I'm not stopping you.
Okay.
You literally have as much time as you want. Go, sister.
I just feel it in me because this American dream, I think is such an intangible, invisible, actually doesn't exist thing that we're all actually striving for without even realizing it. And this beautiful word of thrivery, I think first and foremost is about exploding that box that's in our own life of what is it that I'm racing against? And I have no clue what it is. Well, I mean, for me, I had to break that box of the American dream and decide, you know what? My life isn't going to look anything like that. And no one cares. And who in the world is it that placed that upon me? Because it doesn't exist. It's actually not a thing.
Wow.
And so, anyway, I just feel like there are people that are about to bust out under your voice, Jacy, in these next weeks and these next months, and find that thrivery means so much more than they ever would have imagined. And so I just want to bless that imagination explosion in everybody who's listening.
Wow. Friend, thank you. I receive that. Thank you so much. And thank you for spending time with us and agreeing to be my first guest on the Thrivery podcast. And I can't believe we're already closing, but will you please come back? Can we do this again?
I would be my
Please.
honor. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, friend. Well, any final words? I mean, you just gave us a big one, but I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that you have that you want to share, and you don't have to.
Honestly, I really think that's it, Jacy. Listen to Jacy. Listen to this woman. She has so much goodness. And I just want to say to you, friend, I love the sound of your voice. I love that you're doing this, and I could listen to you literally 24/7. How you communicate, but just the tone and the sound of your voice makes me feel so safe and so soothed. I'm going to use that word, soothed. And I know you're right where you're supposed to be. And I honor you. I celebrate you with all of my heart. And I can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you, sister. I love you. I receive
Yes.
that. I feel the same way because that's what I was talking about earlier when I hear your voice, because your voice for me is different. Your voice is very soothing. And I relate it to healing. I relate it to vulnerability. I relate it to safety. I relate it to truth. I relate it to, all of those moments where all I could do was hear your voice on a bicycle. That's how I got to know you. Before I got to know you, that's how I got to know you. And so I understand that completely. And I just honor you and I love you. And I have enjoyed our time. Thank you for sharing these truths with us. Thank you for, just giving us some really beautiful things to look at. And I just want to find out, because I know that there are going to be people that are going to ask me, how do I get my hands on her? How do I follow her? How do I, where is she? Who is she? Like they know who you are, but they're going to want to know. So how can they follow you or stay connected to you? I'll just let you share however you want to.
Well, friends, I'm having a really good time on Instagram. If you'd like to follow me at Pauline B. Jordan. And of course, you can find me on Facebook, Pauline Jordan.
Awesome. I love you. And thank you to all the listeners. Thanks, friends, for being here. I am excited to do another one really soon with you. And thank you for joining us again on this Thrivery podcast. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on the Thrivery podcast. I hope this discussion inspired you in your pursuit of elevated living. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow us, click the share button and send to friends, and also tag us in your socials. For more information and to stay connected, visit our website at thrivery.life. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time. In October 2023, amidst the breathtaking Montana mountains, a THRIVERY experience emerged, giving life to its inaugural retreat, Ascend. Surpassing all expectations, this transformative event brought together over a dozen women in an immersive experience that left them empowered to uncover the visions and dreams that echoed in their hearts. Ascend transcended the typical retreat experience. It evolved into a shared odyssey of self-discovery, where every woman discovered a supportive sisterhood dedicated to the pursuit of an elevated life. The memories forged during Ascend will be cherished as an endearing chapter in THRIVERY, and we're doing it again this year. I'm thrilled to announce the upcoming THRIVERY experience for 2024, Innermost. It will unfold at the award-winning property Canyon Ranch, nestled in the tranquil Sonoran Desert of Tucson, Arizona, on September 20th through the 22nd. For more information and to save your spot, visit thrivery.store.